The meeting between the two presidents of Ukraine and the United States ended without cameras. Dnipro dressed in black after the Russian strike. And Poland wants to switch to a shorter work week to improve its demographics. All this and more right now. Hello, friends. I'm Irina Prokofieva, and this is TSN. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, watch the broadcast, and be sure to leave your comments. What did you find most interesting? Here are a few topics from today's episode. An unprecedented strike on Dnipro.
Everything everywhere has been thrown out. We put the window back in. That saved us a little here.
We saw the doors flying out, the glass shattering, and we were just going through the glass, through the doors, everything covered in dust. And things kept flying out.
300 wounded and 19 dead. Helda City is recovering after the strike by Russian ballistic missiles. And where can those who survived but lost their homes go? The most expensive summit in NATO's history. And the shortest communique. What did the leaders of the alliance countries agree on at the closed meeting? And what did the presidents of Ukraine and the United States manage to discuss after a long pause? The resolution of the intrigues of the Scandalous summit. Watch it soon, only on TSN. The situation in Ukraine has completely gotten out of control, and something needs to be done about it. This was stated by U.S. President Donald Trump during a closed meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky in The Hague. At least, that's what an anonymous source from Bloomberg, who was present during the conversation, claims. The meeting lasted about as long as a school lesson, around 45 minutes, and took place behind closed doors and without cameras. Even so, both our journalists and the American ones waited for the leaders to come out until the very last moment. More about the meeting itself and the final declaration of the 34th NATO summit, which is already coming to an end, will be reported by TSN's international correspondent Jana Slijsarchuk, who has been working in the Netherlands this whole time.
We still have to piece together information about the meeting, which lasted quite a long time, bit by bit. I think this will continue here for a while longer. We don't even have confirmation of which leader insisted that the meeting be held without cameras. But the Americans waited next to us for an hour. They even had to clear seats in the hall for them later, where Donald Trump was supposed to hold a press conference. This happened even though the NATO leaders' meeting was delayed by an hour in the morning precisely because Trump turned his bilateral meeting with Secretary General Rutte into an impromptu briefing. In short, this is how the president of Ukraine is describing the meeting so far. And we haven't received any more information from the Ukrainian side.
It was a long and substantive meeting with President Trump. We covered all the truly important issues. I thank Mr. President. Thank you to the United States. We talked about how to achieve a ceasefire and real peace. We discussed how to protect our people. We appreciate the attention and willingness to help bring peace closer.
At the press conference, the American president said verbatim, Zelensky was very nice, as always. It was a great meeting. I will talk to Putin about ending the war. And he continues.
I did not discuss a ceasefire with Zelensky. I just wanted to see how he was doing.
Then he repeats, there never would have been a war if he had been president. That's Trump's favorite phrase. He's asked here, but you've already been president for a whole 5 months, and Russia is still continuing the war. Here's his reaction.
My words about ending the war in Ukraine in 24 hours, of course, were sarcastic. Putin is a more complicated person. I also had problems with Zelensky. This is the most complicated war.
Immediately after that, a critically important question for Ukraine is raised about the Patriots, which we desperately need for our defense. And it comes from the wife of a serviceman.
Are you living in Ukraine right now?
My husband is there, and I'm in Warsaw with the kids, because he wanted me to leave.
Is your husband in the military?
Yes, he's a serviceman.
Is he there now?
Yes.
That's sad and difficult. Here's what I'll tell you. They really want these systems, the Patriots. We'll see if we can get a few. They're hard to get. We need them too. We're also supplying them to Israel. They're very effective, 100%. It's hard to believe, and they want them more than anything. That's a very good question, and I wish you luck. I can see how upsetting this is for you. Say hi to your husband.
Well, I'll say a few words about the summit's final declaration. It's brief. As I announced from the very beginning, it has 5 points. The first emphasizes that all member states are committed to collective defense as enshrined in Article 5. And this is not just a formality, given the Russian threat, especially considering that former U.S. President Trump previously suggested that Article 5 could be interpreted in different ways. In short, the confirmation that an attack on one NATO member is considered an attack on all was very much needed by the Allies. In the second point, Russia was named as a threat, and there was a pledge to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP by 2035. In the third point, these 5% are broken down into 3.5% for defense and 1.5% for infrastructure. In this same point, the Allies reaffirmed their readiness to continue supporting Ukraine, whose security is important for the alliance. So, military aid to Ukraine is equated with defense spending. The fourth point proposes more active trading of defense technologies among the Allies. It is formulated quite generally. And the fifth point designates the next countries where the summits will be held. Next year it will be Turkey, and after that, Albania. Reporting from The Hague, Yana Slisarchuk, Andriy Marchenko, TFN. 1+1.
A day of mourning in Dnipro. The number of victims from the enemy strike in the city has risen to 19. And 2 more people were killed in the city of Samara. More than 300 people were injured. Over 1,500 are still in hospitals. Dnipro City Council has called the scale of destruction unprecedented. Nearly 50 apartment buildings were damaged and 40 educational institutions were destroyed. Anastasia Naverna will tell us how Dnipro is recovering from that hellish day.
Not a single window survived. Doors are warped and torn out. These dormitories are located right next to the epicenter of the explosions. They took the brunt of the blasts. Dozens of residents were injured, and only by a miracle were there no fatalities.
Come on. 1, 2, 1.
Some residents have already managed to get back to their homes. Ms. Victoria and her daughter are looking for survivors. They say that almost nothing is left of the rooms they had just renovated.
Everything was thrown out everywhere in there. We had put in a new window. That kind of saved us a little here.
We saw the door flying off, the glass shattering, and we were just going through the glass, through the doors, everything covered in dust, and we ran out.
The children weren't hurt because they managed to run out into the hallway in time. The youngest, who is 4, still can't recover from the shock.
The child said she won't come back here. She is very scared to look for a new home. Yesterday, she didn't eat, didn't drink. She doesn't want anything. And now she just got up. She looked around at the situation and said, "Mom, we're not going back there, are we?" I said, "No."
It's a similar situation throughout the whole dormitory. People are patching up windows and looking for anything to cover the broken doors.
We don't have a balcony, and I don't have any doors. Last night, we somehow managed to do something with the windows, but really everyone... Yesterday we managed to clean up a bit, but all our things, everything was mixed together with the glass. Our bedding, our clothes, everything. People will take us in for a day or 2, but who will want us after that?
3 ballistic missiles hit this area in quick succession. As is typical with this type of weapon, the strikes happened shortly after the air raid alert was announced, so most people didn't have time to make it to the shelter. Serhiy and his son were just entering their building when the explosion went off nearby. He recalls that he barely managed to shield his little one with his own body.
We were just stepping out, and at that very moment, everything started falling apart. Something hit, glass or debris. I'm not sure what it was. They stitched up the wound and covered it with a bandage. So more or less, I'm okay.
Passengers on the train coming from Odessa were also affected. There were more than 50 of them. One of the missiles exploded nearby. Miraculously, there were no fatalities there. 10 people were injured, including children. In the first hours after the attack, Ambulances could barely keep up with transporting the wounded. Hospitals were receiving seriously injured patients every 5 to 10 minutes. More than 1,500 patients are currently under medical supervision, and the condition of nearly 20 of them is critical. 13 children also remain in the hospital.
All the patients who were admitted have mine explosive injuries. They all had shrapnel wounds to the head, eyes, limbs, and abdomen. Those patients who are serious have head injuries, spinal injuries, abdominal injuries, and limb injuries.
The destruction caused by this attack has been described by the Dnipro City Council as the largest since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. More than 50 apartment buildings, dozens of private houses, 100 cars, hospitals, clinics, and over 30 schools and kindergartens have been damaged. Since yesterday, victims have been lining up in huge queues to file police reports about their damaged property.
The roof, the windows, the glass, everything is damaged. Of course, it's stressful. Thank God everyone is alive and well, and nothing's turned out this way.
I work in a kiosk. Yesterday, I was showered with glass in there. I fell to the floor and the shelves fell on me. I live in a house nearby.
And how is your family member?
No windows, no doors. I ran over and checked. In the evening, I closed up whatever I could.
From the impact sites, utility workers have already removed almost 1,000 tons of debris and rubble. Anastasia Naverna, Vladislav Kamishin, Dnipro, TSN 1+1.
The Russians continue their terror in the Donetsk region. In Pokrovsk, an FPV drone attacked a car. The driver was killed, and his injured wife was taken to the hospital. In Torsky, a drone wounded a pensioner, and in Konstantinivka, 2 passers-by were injured. In the morning, the Russian army shelled Teryevka in the Kherson region with artillery. 3 women who happened to be outside suffered blast injuries. Later, the occupiers attacked the outskirts of Kherson with a drone. A local resident sustained shrapnel wounds. And in the afternoon, residential buildings in the Korabelny district of the regional center once again came under artillery fire. The Russians carried out 4 strikes on Zaporizhia. 2 people were injured. In the private sector, houses, outbuildings, and cars were damaged. The occupiers attacked Kharkiv with 7 shahids. 1 person was hospitalized. A civilian enterprise and a residential building were damaged. Another 8 people were injured in Kupiansk, where a glide bomb damaged a 9-story building. And in Vilkov, in the Odessa region, the Russians sent about 15 shahids, destroying a private business's building and destroying equipment and machinery. More than 1,000 students from the Lyceum in Bilhorod-Nostrovsky, which was destroyed by Russian missiles, will study in 3 other schools in the city starting September 1st. All teachers and technical staff from the educational institution will keep their jobs. This was reported by the head of the Odessa Regional Military Administration. He visited the site of the missile strike, as well as the hospital where the victims are currently staying. Among them are the school principal and 2 16-year-old students. One of them, after being trapped under the rubble, managed to get out on his own and help his friend. In the near future, experts will conduct an inspection of the building. Will it be possible to restore it, or will it have to be demolished and a new one built? As a reminder, the Russians hit the Lyceum with 2 ballistic missiles. 3 school employees were killed and 14 were injured. Friends, neighbors, colleagues, and the son's classmates, over 100 people, came in the capital to say goodbye to the family of 16-year-old Kirilo, who died as a result of the Russian attack on Monday. A ballistic missile hit an apartment building in a Shevchenkivsky district, claiming the lives of 9 people in total. Kirilo's family had 2 apartments on the 4th floor. They were completely destroyed. At that moment, the boy's mother, father, and grandfather were there. At that time, Kirilo himself was at their dacha outside Kiev with his grandmother. When the boy's classmates found out about the tragedy, they immediately started a fundraiser for him. Because in addition to losing his parents, Kirilo was left without any of his belongings. You can help too. The QR code is now on your screen. It was around 7 o'clock in the evening.
Somewhere around 7 or 8 o'clock, we were informed that, unfortunately, they had been found under the rubble. It's a terrible loss, and it's just awful to realize that you were just talking to these people, and then in such a short time, You can't talk to them anymore or reach out to them. Even though we used to discuss so many interesting topics together.
Our goal is to raise 2 million hryvnias to buy an apartment for the child, a place to live, so that, let's say, he has his own home.
To mine the border with Russia, 5 NATO countries are preparing to make this decision. According to the Daily Telegraph, Finland, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, and Poland are ready to separate themselves from the aggressor country using mines. All of these countries have already announced their intention to withdraw from the Ottawa Convention, which bans the use of anti-personnel mines. The document was supported by 164 countries in 1997, but Russia has never signed this convention. Moreover, it has a large arsenal of mines and is using them on a massive scale in the war against Ukraine. As a result, 5 NATO countries are concerned about having such a dangerous neighbor and want to protect themselves in case of an invasion. Kyiv expects that new European sanctions will hurt Putin's military budget. This was stated by Ukraine's Minister of Foreign Affairs after a meeting with the European Union's chief diplomat. Andrei Sybiha discussed with Kaja Kallas the next steps the EU will take to strengthen sanctions pressure, as well as Ukraine's progress on its path toward the European Union. In particular, he emphasized that our country has fulfilled all the requirements to open the first cluster of negotiations. Earlier, in an interview with Radio Svoboda, Kaja Kallas stated that she expects progress on capping the price of Russian oil at the European Council summit, which will take place tomorrow. The main issue that European allies need to agree on, according to the EU's chief diplomat, is that the price cap will be set without the participation of the United States. During the recent G7 summit in Canada, they did not agree to join the new restrictions. A lot of international events are taking place these days. In your opinion, what results are these events bringing for Ukraine? Write about it in the comments to this broadcast on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Do it right now. Meanwhile, the TSN broadcast continues, and so do we. The scandalous wedding of one of the richest people in the world. Jeff Bezos changed the location of the ceremony because of threats and protests. He and his bride, American TV host Lauren Sanchez, who not long ago traveled to space, had planned to get married in the heart of Venice at a luxurious 16th century exhibition center. But in the end, they changed the location to the local arsenal, surrounded by fortified walls. The outrage in Venice over this wedding has not subsided since March. Opponents of excessive tourism, climate change, and luxury are protesting. A few days ago, they unfurled banners with Bezos' portrait and the caption, "If you can rent Venice for your wedding, then you can pay more taxes." Activists also threatened to block the canals with inflatable crocodiles to keep celebrity guests from attending the wedding. City officials criticize these protests, arguing that it's the rich and famous who help fill the city's budget. Meanwhile, distinguished guests are gradually arriving in Italian city. Around 200 guests are expected. Among them are actor Leonardo DiCaprio, Trump's daughter Ivanka with her husband, singer Mick Jagger, and socialite Kim Kardashian. For this occasion, Venice is expecting dozens of private jets and yachts. 5 hotels have been fully booked for the event, and security will be handled by former United States Marines. Hit the bell so you don't miss our exclusives and the next episode, which comes out tomorrow, as usual, at 7:30 p.m. For now, here's how TSN correspondents saw this Wednesday, in brief. A day of mourning in Dnipro. The number of victims from the enemy strike in the city has risen to 19. 2 more people were killed in the city of Samara, with over 300 injured. The Dnipro City Council called the scale of destruction unprecedented. Nearly 50 apartment buildings were damaged and 40 educational institutions were destroyed.
Because everything everywhere was thrown out. We put the window back in. That saved us a little.
We saw how the doors were blown out. The glass was blown out. We were just going over the glass, the doors, everything was covered in dust, and things were flying out.
Zelensky is meeting with Trump. The presidents of Ukraine and the United States held talks on the sidelines of the NATO summit in The Hague.
they talked for almost an hour. Zelensky called the meeting productive and shared some details. During the conversation, they discussed a ceasefire, achieving peace, and protecting Ukrainians. He also thanked Trump and the United States. Mining the border with Russia, 5 NATO countries are preparing for this decision. According to the Daily Telegraph, Finland, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, and Poland are ready to separate themselves from the aggressor country using mines. All these countries have already announced their intention to withdraw from the Ottawa Convention, which bans the use of anti-personnel mines. A taxi to the border. In the Chernivtsi region, violators from 3 different regions were detained. To leave Ukraine quickly and comfortably, they hired 2 drivers. For the trip to Romania, they were supposed to pay the organizer of the escape $10,000 each. All the violators were detained. A 4-day workweek, and with full pay, too. Starting Monday, Poland is launching a 2-year experiment. They want to scale up the initiative. All of this is to help citizens better maintain a work-life balance, spend more time with their families, and improve the demographic situation.